Welcome to Book Crew. We are on KCCC 9:30 a.m. in Carlsbad, New Mexico on Mondays at noon. We're available on YouTube and Rumble under the Task Force Geek banner. And by the time you hear this, we'll be on every major podcast aggregator out there. I am writer and marketing Jedi Dark Hooper, and I'm joined as always by author and editor Beth A. Freely. How you doing, Beth?
I'm doing good, and apparently Peanut Butter's jumping in on this episode too.
Hey there, Peanut Butter. How you doing? Peanut Butter is a perennial favorite on this and all the other podcasts that we do.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to talk about Beth's new book, but first I'm going to, in our little introductory segment, I'm going to take about 5 minutes to make an announcement and talk about my upcoming book.
Yes, please do.
So we had Angel Nix on the show as our first guest with the new format. And after we got done with the interview, I followed her everywhere and kind of got into her ecosphere. And she had a shared world series that she was coming out with. And I watched Beth and Angel talk about kind of how they were going to form this series. Mm-hmm. And the original idea was kind of an all-female biker club, which piqued my interest. And Beth said, hey, I just wrote something that's similar to this. So if you will say that this shared world series is going to be also paranormal, then I'm on board. Mm-hmm. And Angel came back and said, yeah, let's do it that way. So Beth had already written something that she could easily move over into this universe. Well, both Beth and Angel put the gears to me a little bit to do something, because they knew I was interested, but I'd only written 2 other books in a totally
made it worth your while.
Not a totally different genre, but a different genre. And I am. It takes me a while to write a book, so it was pretty presumptuous on my part to be interested in something that was literally going to be due in about 6 months. But I also had the inspiration of Angel and Beth and many other authors that we've talked to on the show that are obviously getting done. I mean, we talked to one of our guests who was literally putting a book, writing and publishing a book every damn month. I mean, every month she had another book come out. It's like, I could do 1 book in 6 months. I could do this. So I signed on to do this shared world series, which is called Dark Chaos. It is an all-female biker club paranormal series. There are, Beth, how many Beth is involved in it, Angel's involved, Angel Nix is involved in it. How many authors are in this thing?
I think there's at least
15,
something like that. Maybe
it's a lot.
Yeah, there's a bunch of us. There's at least 10 that I know of.
So for some reason, because I knew I'd want to get the book out. If I did write it quickly, I would also want to get the thing out, because the last thing I want to do is sit on I haven't written a lot of books. I want to get it out. So I took the first slot on January 7th, 2026 to do this book. And I've already titled it, so I'm going to put out, I'm not going to do a title reveal. The title of the book is Love, Whiskey, and the Eternal War. And my motorcycle club is a subchapter of the Dark Chaos Motorcycle Club, and they're called the Gorgons. And so since I am a visual learner and research and doing things, I like drawing them. I drew this right here, which is the Gorgon symbol for the Gorgons MC, and I set them
that.
in my hometown of Moore, Oklahoma,
Nice.
which is like some people are picking New Orleans or Los Angeles or Chicago or, places that are really, really exciting. I purposely chose Moore, Oklahoma, which is, by the way, not exciting. And, but what I figured two things. Number one, I don't have to do research about Moore. I lived in Moore or around Moore my entire life.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be fun to write something in Moore. It's like, can I do a supernatural, a paranormal book in Moore? That sounded weird and kind of fun. And it's also gives me an opportunity to, kind of write a little bit of love letter to Oklahoma, which I've lived in all my life, and most people don't really know a lot about. So both good and bad, I'm going to be writing about, my hometown and Oklahoma and Oklahoma City in particular. And I'm very much looking forward to that. Here is the patch that I put together for that. I got to tell you that for people who don't know how art works, those snakes, figuring out how they kind of moved around her head and drawing in all the little scales and stuff, that took forever. And then doing the actual patch so that it looked correct, like the back of what they call a cut. And then putting that together was a lot more effort than I originally planned, but I liked it so much that I actually offered this thing as as something to buy on Redbubble. So I will have a link to that if you're interested in getting that thing on a t-shirt or a mug or some silly thing.
It would look cool on a mug for sure.
I'm going to order a t-shirt immediately and start wearing it around and see if people ask me about because I'm literally right on the border of Oklahoma City and Moore. And while I'm wearing it around, people will ask me what the heck it is, which is, that'll be a little advertising for me there.
I like it.
So there's my announcement. I'm going to be working on and releasing Love, Whiskey, and the Eternal War on January 7th. And it's in a shared world that is also shared with Beth and with Angel and a bunch of other great writers. And that's very exciting to me, too. There you go. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add on that subject, or you want to get onto your book?
No, let's get on to it. I've been waiting all day. I have
all right.
News.
Well,
I have
all right.
News.
So if you've been watching and listening and following along with Book Crew, then you have been hearing about Beth's project, which is called Love of a Samurai. She recently completed this project, and we will talk about the length of it and that sort of thing in a minute. But the book has been released. It's been out for 4 days. Beth has an announcement to make. What is the announcement, Beth?
As of an hour ago, Love of a Samurai, which I published on June 24th, my sister's birthday, as of an hour ago, was sitting at number 91 in historical Japanese fiction on Amazon.
That is insane.
It is. It's crazy.
that is such a huge announcement. Congratulations, Beth.
Thank you. I was looking at the other books that sit in this genre. I'm sitting up at, within the top 20 is Memoirs of a Geisha. James Clavell's Gaijin and Taipan and Shogun.
Right.
Book about Musashi.
Pretty big heavy hitters.
Yeah, there's heavy hitters in these 100 books, and the fact that my book after 4 days was sitting at number 91. My brain is a little blown.
To break the top 100 is awesome.
This is the only book that I've ever published that has broken the top 100. So I am a little blown away by it. I really am.
That is
It's
amazing.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is amazing. And when you were working on this book and talking about this book and stuff, I said this is possibly one of your best. They call it writing to market. Mm-hmm. This is one of your, in my opinion, it felt like to me that this was the best book that you have written to market. And that's not why you wrote it. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But with the Shogun series on FX, there is a huge number of people out there who have been kind of awakened to, feudal Japan and to the world and what's going on there. And I have to imagine they're pretty hungry to
apparently.
Yeah. And so I am so happy for you and so proud of you that has come to fruition.
It can stay in the top 100 for one day and I'll be happy. I mean, it just.
Yeah. I mean, my question was, how do we get her in the top 10? What do we got to do? I mean, my thing is here's my suggestion on that. And we're going to talk about the book here in just a second, but here's my suggestion. Go to Amazon right now. I'm serious. I mean, we're going to be running this on Monday. What is it? The 7th of July. On this day, hopefully people are watching this. Go buy the book. If we could get 10 or 20 people to buy the book all on one day, I think it will move up. I think it'll move up there. Yeah. I don't think they're selling that many. I mean, we're just talking about the top 10. I think that we could move you into the top 10 with somewhere between 10 and 20 books on one day. If everyone would go buy the book. So please, if you're listening to this, either on KCCC or you're watching it on YouTube or on Rumble, please go buy that book just as soon as you hear this and stuff. And let's see if we can push her into the top 10. I think that would just be amazing.
That would be great. It would be awesome.
So to get them over there and to buy the book, please give us the elevator pitch on Love of a Samurai.
30-second elevator pitch on Love of a Samurai. The British ambassador's daughter, Helena Montclair, who has lived in Japan since she was 10 for the last 10 years, sees her father get killed between Kyoto and Osaka by Ronin. She is found by a local daimyo by the name of Takamatsu Sato, who recognizes her from the shogun's court and takes her back to his village, realizing that she has no place to go. Her papers have been destroyed. She has no money. She has nothing. So he takes her back to his village up in the mountains of Japan and tries to find a place for her. His Hatamoto Ujio, Takahashi, tells him she doesn't belong here. And Sato tells him, maybe she does, maybe she doesn't, but I'm leaving it up to you to help her find her way. And their love story blossoms. She is fluent in Japanese, having insisted on learning it while at the shogun's court, and her father indulged her. She's blonde hair, brown-eyed, very English rose skin, so she sticks out, but yet the shogun has taken favor with her because he compared women to porcelain, and she reminded the shogun that women might be porcelain, but they are stronger because porcelain goes through fire, and is made stronger in the process. And he finds that refreshing to hear from someone, especially a woman not of his own culture. And yeah, so she has to figure out her place, and Ujio trains her, and they fall in love, and it's a slow burn saga. I'm going to call it a saga. It's 778 pages. It is the longest book I've ever wrote, longest book I've ever published. And it's lucky number 13 in my publishing queue.
Oh,
so
yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, lucky number 13 for me.
Let me ask you this. What does this book mean to you?
This is the book I think this is the kind of novel I write every 10, 15 years. I enjoy writing the saga style novels, the long drawn out novels. This is the third one with Legend of Captain St. Pierre and Beyond the Steps of Stone being the other two. This novel reminded me of how I like to write, what I like to write, and kind of took me back to my roots as far as my own process in writing. So that, and God, I have loved samurai stories and anything Japanese culture, Chinese culture, all of that kind of stuff, that feudal culture since I was a kid. So to be able to write this and for it to turn out the way it did, it's kind of it's a bit of a love letter to myself, I think.
Wow.
I would describe it. It's a love letter to myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. When did you start working on this book?
I want to say it's the end of last year, the end of 2024.
Okay, so you've been working on it for about 6 months.
Yeah, I started the outline at the end of 2024.
6 or 7 months.
Yep. And it started out actually as a fan fiction for myself. And
really?
And again, yeah. And as The Legend of Captain St. Pierre started out as a fan fiction when Miriam and I started writing it, Miriam, my co-author. And halfway through we said, yeah, we need to turn this into an original. And I started writing a samurai for myself as a fan fiction. And the further I got into it, the more I'm going, what am I doing? No, stop. And I did. I stopped and went back and said, all right, this is what I'm doing. There's one name in the entire story I did not change from the original fan fiction, because I absolutely refused to do it. And that was kind of a nod to me. And that's Ujio. Now, those of you who are listening, if you have seen the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, you will recognize the name Ujio.
That's a great movie. It's been a while since I've seen it. That is a great movie, though.
Yeah. And that was the one name I said, nope, I'm not changing this name. That was the one name I kept. But I turned it, I said, no. I said, if I'm going to write this, I'm going to write this for publication. And I completely revamped the entire thing and turned it into an original.
What was the longest book that you'd written previously?
Beyond the Steps
of Stone.
And
how long was that?
500 words.
How did this?
A little over 100,000 words, not 500 words. Obviously, 500 is much. A little over 500 pages. How
did this one get so out of control? In a good way.
It got out of control the same way Beyond the Steps of Stone did. I sat down, and after I realized that I was going to turn this into a full-blown novel for publication, I sat down, I took everything that I had, I outlined it. I actually sat down and wrote an outline.
Okay.
And then I took the outline and I blew the outline out even further and further and further.
Wow.
And this is what I did with Beyond the Steps of Stone too. I started with a basic outline and I just took the outline and made a pass. Took that pass and made another pass. And it just grew and grew and grew until I was left with a 778, 788, however many pages at this point, final novel. I just started with that simple outline and just kept blowing the outline out further and further and further until I had a novel.
Yeah. Well, you answered my next question, was whether you plotted it or pantsed it. You said that you did say that you went back to your roots a little bit on that. How did you do that?
The process, actually. So I've always been a bit of a pantster, but back when I first wrote, like, Behind the Asadorian Gray 20 years ago, I actually outlined it and then wrote the book and then rewrote the book and then rewrote the book again. And that's kind of me going back to my roots. Legend of Captain St. Pierre, we just pantstered all our way through it. The Lock, I wrote the very last scene of The Lock before I wrote anything else and just pantstered my way through it. And I've done that with quite a few of my books. But Beyond the Steps of Stone was one that I did with a full-blown outline that I just kept blowing out until I was left with a novel.
Award-winning Beyond the Steps of Stone.
Award-winning Beyond the Steps of Stone. And then, so for me to go back and take the time to actually outline a book and then take that outline and write a first pass and then take that first pass and then write another pass and just add more detail and add more emotion and add more and just add more and add more and add more until I have built this world in the mountains of feudal Japan. That was me going back to my roots.
What kind of, I know that you were early on, you were talking a lot about doing research and stuff. Can you crack open the book on that and tell us about kind of what it's like to research something? Because this is not like writing something that's set right now. You have to know your shit.
You have to
or
know, yeah.
It's going to, be all over you. So
to be fair, I kind of took a page out of actor Hiroyuki Sanada's book of making sure you do it right and honoring the culture. And so I heavily researched, how did the houses look? How did the temples look? What did they eat? Medicines, because Helena takes over in the healer's house as the healer of the village. What kind of medicines were used back then? Learning kanji, learning Japanese. I'm actually, been teaching myself some Japanese.
Cool.
In order to learn, the language and work with it. How did they dress? I found it interesting that, the term kasode and kimono was not actually a term used for Japanese dress until the Edo period.
Interesting.
It was always known as a kasode. So understanding, what are the clothing pieces? I can now sit down and watch, and this blows my husband's mind. I can sit down and watch a Japanese movie, a samurai movie, and I can name every single piece of clothing he's got on.
That's amazing. Wearing. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, understanding that samurai put their armor on from the bottom up. So that's the kind of research that I put into this. The helmet's called a kabuto. The face piece that they wear here is called a menpo. Some of them were based on the Japanese, the kami, the spirits of the Shinto religion. Some of them were based on animals. All of that kind of stuff I've tried to infuse into this book to make it as culturally accurate as possible, as a nod towards the culture and what the shoguns and the shogunate did, and what it all stood for. It was a rabbit hole.
For sure. And I know that because I can remember you talking about for quite a while, talking about doing research and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I knew that you had dedicated quite a bit to making sure that you knew what you were talking about and that it informed and enriched the book
Yeah.
for your readers. Speaking of readers, who do you think is going to love of a Samurai the most?
Anyone who's a fan of slow burn and of enemies to lovers, people who like those tropes, people who enjoy reading a historical novel, people who want to learn a little bit more through their entertainment.
Sure. That's one of the main reasons why I read. If an author drops something in there that I don't know or I've never thought about before, that I love that. That makes me go, oh, this is cool. It makes me feel like I'm not just reading for entertainment, but also learning things. I like that.
And I one of my readers, one of the people who actually have read the book from this Rost forum. Hi, Steve. He told me straight out, this is not the kind of book I normally read, but he was captured within the first 2 chapters. He automatically fell in love with Helena, and was like, yeah, he's like, I need to know how this story ends. So
that was kind of my next question, which is, I know that a few close friends have read the book. What have they said to you about the book?
Oh, they've absolutely loved it. My PA, Rachel, who does not typically read romance novels, couldn't put it down. Angel absolutely loved it. Angel's the reason why Takamatsu's...
Her review is up on the book.
Yeah, her review
right
is
now. You can
up.
read her review, and it's great.
Yeah.
You should go read Angel's review.
Takamatsu Sato's character is getting his own book because of Angel and her review.
I will talk about that in a moment.
Steve loved it. My friend Amy Kaplan, who's been on the show,
yes.
She's been reading it. She is not a romance reader, and she was begging me to send her chapters.
Wow.
So the response has been phenomenal. Another author friend of mine, I didn't even know that she had bought the book. She threw up a note on Facebook. She's like, I am obsessed with this book. If you have not read it, you need to buy it. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, the response has been great. It has been great. And like I said, the book's out 4 days and it's already, number 91, it's cracked the top 100. In 20 years of writing, I've never had a book crack the top 100. So
Beth, I'm going to coordinate with you. I'm talking about it right now on this deal as we speak. We need to get a publicity campaign so that everyone gets out and buys this thing on the 7th.
I have discovered there's a group out called Cali. It's a new influencer group for authors, and I put a campaign up for it, and I actually have like 5 influencers who are interested in reading the book. So I am sometime this weekend, I'm actually going to be sending them the EPUB. And seeing what comes out of it, seeing what they say. One of the other things that I'm working on, including the paperback. I'm working on the paperback. I'm working on a book box to go with it that will include some original artwork, a bigger version of the map that's in the front of the book, which was beautifully hand-drawn for me by Steve Shank, our good friend. And of course you did the cover for me. So I've got some ideas for promotion, that I'm working on. My PA, Rachel, has been wonderful about promoting the book, getting it out there on TikTok and other things. So I'm pushing it. I'm pushing it.
You have a copy of the map. Why don't you share that?
So it's sideways right now, but
okay.
I don't know if there's any way we can turn this.
Well, not from here. We'd have to reload it, and but yeah. I think people get an idea of what you're looking at there. Tell us about the map.
This is Yushizo, who is Sato's son. This is Yushizo's village. This is the village that they bring Helena back to after they find her, after her father has been killed by the Ronin. Sato's idea is to at least bring her back overnight and let her decide if she wants to stay or if she wants to go back to Kyoto and back to the shogun's court. We have the main building, which is the biggest building on the map, which is right above the legend. That's, basically the main hall in Sato's home. And then, you've got like the temple shrines next to it. You can see the torii gate that leads into the village. There's the healer's house and Mariko's house. Mariko is an elder lady in the village who takes Helena under her wing and basically makes her her daughter, as she calls her. She's not my daughter of blood, but she's my daughter of spirit. You've got the training grounds. There's a river there, the onsen. These are all places that are mentioned and figure prominently within the book. And I was looking for someone to draw a map for me. This is the very first map I've ever put in a book. I figured if I'm going to go big, I'm going to go big.
Yeah.
So I put the map in the book. And everything. And Steve did a fantastic job with this. When he sent it to me, I almost burst into tears because it was exactly what I was looking for.
So it's your friend Steve Shank that drew this thing. How did you direct him on this thing? Because it's got quite a bit in there.
I sent him a list of the locations in the book. And I told him, I said, this is Sato's home, and the main hall. Here's the temple. Here is, Mariko's house, the garden, and then the healers, what they refer to as the healer's house. What I refer to as the healer's house is right next to it, which is basically the doctor's office, for lack of a better way of putting it. And then he embellished it. I gave him the list of everything, and then he embellished it based on what he was reading as I was sending him chapters.
That's cool.
And put it together for me. Yeah.
Well, he did a great job. It looks great.
He did. I absolutely love it. One of the things I'm planning on doing for the book box is actually taking that and blowing it up bigger. And
that is a great idea.
Folding it and putting it in the book box with some of the artwork that I've had commissioned for it.
I really want to do a thing on a book box because that speaks to me, because I like creating bookmarks and stuff and creating little things and the idea of putting it in a box. And so I really want to get a group together and see what people are putting in book boxes.
So I could tell you what I'm putting in this one. Chris Riley, who's been on the show, she's working on vellum prints. I commissioned 3 prints. One's of Ujio, one's of Helena, and then there's one of them together. And she's printing those out in vellum for me to go in the book box. I am another local vendor that I've done shows with here in town who does tumblers. She's doing small half tumblers for me, like with cherry blossoms and a Japanese motif to go in the book box. But the fun thing that I'm putting in there is one of my closest friends, Terry. She does soaps and candles and sprays and stuff. And there will be candles this size in the book box that is sandalwood and cherry blossom.
Oh my gosh, that is cool.
That we've named. We actually have named the scent that will have a sticker on it. And then we were
that is cool.
Mad scientisting it last week at her house, and we developed a room spray that it's basically Ujio. It would be Ujio scent, and then we're going to do one that's Helena scent, and people can choose. So these are some of the things that we're adding to the book box.
I love that. I think that's amazing. And I'm dying to know how that sort of thing goes, because like I said, that really speaks to me.
Hoping to test it out in the end of next month. I'm doing the Eddy County Fair here in Artesia. And I'm hoping to have most of, if not all of the different pieces for the book box to go to go with it. And people can, if people don't want to buy the book box, if they don't want all the stuff in the book box, but they want the book and maybe a candle, they'll be able to like buy the candle, and go with the book and stuff like that. So there's some extra promotion going on, and some extra things that the 2 book signings that I'm doing this year, I will have that stuff because this book I'm going to heavily promote.
Yeah, I think that this is going to pay off for you for a good long time. I'm going to show the cover because I did it. I did not do the artwork on the cover. The artwork was found stuff that I got through Adobe Express, but I did put it all together and designed the layout and so on with it. And Beth and I went back and forth for a long time on how to put the text out there and do all that sort of stuff, which is that's just part of the process of designing a book. But I think visually, I think this is one of my better designs.
I love it
and stuff. I think it's pretty powerful looking.
Which is why I already asked you to do the next 2 to go
right.
with
Okay.
It, so.
Well, you gave away my next question, which is what's next on this thing.
Well, I got a couple of other books that I've got to get done first, but Sato and his love interest Soji, they have already been very loud in my head. As a matter of fact, Soji and her companion, who show up in the village, they decided to tell me the other night that they're showing up in the village in the middle of a blizzard. I'm like, oh, thank you. Okay, great. We're not doing this right now. Go back to sleep. I got something else I got to finish. But Lord Takamatsu Soto is getting his own book. And then there is another male character in the book by the name of Lord Hachiman Asano. Now, for those of you who don't know Japanese culture, it's always last name first. So when I refer to Asano and Sato and Ujio in the books, those are their first names. So when I say Lord Takamatsu Soto, normally we would say Sato Takamatsu, just so people understand. But Lord Hachiman Asano, he is a neighboring daimyo who comes and helps, and he has somehow turned out larger than life in my head. And where Sato is a very kind of Zen, very, leader, father figure, quiet. Hachiman Asano is exactly the opposite. He is the jokester. There's a scene in the book where he's sponsoring a sake drinking contest, which apparently, when he's done this previously, someone has wound up drunk in the koi pond. And I'm like, if I'm going to write one for Sato, I need to write one for Asano as well. So Sato's book is Heart of a Samurai. And then Lord Asano's book, Hachiman Asano's book will be Strength of a Samurai.
All right. Well,
so
we're down.
They're coming.
We're down to under 2 minutes. I don't want to cut anything out here. So tell everyone where they can find Love of a Samurai. And I want to, again, encourage everyone to go out and buy it as soon as you see this episode or to listen to it.
Obviously, Love of Samurai is available on Amazon. It is also available through Barnes & Noble and through Rakuten Kobo, Apple, and all of those, different places.
So you went wide with it.
I went wide with it. Yeah, I went wide with it. And the paperback will be also available in all those places once I release that. So, and also on my website. So if you want to order the ebook directly from me, check my website next week. I still have to get it up on the website, but it'll be available directly from me next week on my website.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap things up so we can get it in under 40, make sure that all of what we talked about gets out there. So before I go, I want to say that Beth A. Freely is offering editing and book trailer services, and I'm offering author branding and social media management at themusesfunhouse.com. And I'd like to invite everyone to join us and participate in our new Book Crew Facebook group. You can get updates about the show, insight from working authors, including Beth and me, and post about your own book projects. It's facebook.com/group /Book Crew Podcast. Join and tell your author friends. Go out and buy Love of a Samurai. Thanks to our guest. Thanks to Beth. This is Dirk Hooper saying, dream hard.